Spanish, like many other languages, has grammatical gender, coming in masculine and feminine flavors. Predicting a noun's gender is somewhat easy. The majority of nouns ending in O are masculine, and the majority of nouns ending in A are feminine. Some other patterns exist, like how nouns with the suffix sion are feminine, most words ending with the letter de or zeta are also feminine, and most Greek loanwords ending with ma are masculine. But of course, with everything, there are exceptions to these trends. For all other nouns, there's this neat little trick called memorizing every single word's individual gender. But I digress. There are 4 definite articles, which all translate to the in English. There's el for masculine nouns, la for feminine nouns, and don't forget their corresponding plurals los for masculine and las for feminine nouns. So if we take a masculine noun like mundo, meaning world, place a definite article before it, then it becomes el mundo, the world. A feminine noun such as casa, house, turns into la casa, the house. The word for money, masculine noun dinero, turns into el dinero. And the word for water, the clearly feminine noun agua, becomes el agua. Wait, what? There is a major exception. When feminine nouns start with a stressed a sound, they take the definite article el instead of la. This helps prevent having multiple of the same vowel in a row that would otherwise be caused by saying la agua, while el agua has a nice little consonant there to separate those vowels. So despite the fact that alma, soul, and hacha, axe, are feminine nouns, their definite forms are el alma and el hacha respectively. These types of words actually only represent a small proportion of feminine nouns. A good majority of feminine nouns don't start with a, and even out of those that do, when a is unstressed, it still takes the definite article la. So you get forms la abeja for the bee and la ardilla for the squirrel. Spanish can also do this thing where adjectives can be treated as noun meaning thing that is, or person that is. So grande by itself means big, but el grande means the big thing, or the big person, assumed to be masculine because of the masculine definite article, while la grande, which also translates as the big person or the big thing, this time feminine. And when these adjectives turned nouns are put into their feminine forms, they always take la, even if there is a stressed a. So we have el alto for the tall man, and la alta for the tall woman. Even when feminine nouns do take el in the singular, when pluralized, they still take the feminine plural article las, which has a consonant to block any potential consecutive vowels. So we still get las aguas, las almas, and las hachas like normal feminine nouns. So the question is, do a very small section of Spanish nouns change gender in the definite singular? No. Because not only do definite articles need to agree with nouns in gender, but so do indefinite articles, adjectives, demonstrative pronouns, and even object pronouns. And in all of these cases, agua, alma, and hacha are all still treated as feminine nouns. So you get sentences like la conseguí el hacha roja, where hacha is treated very much feminine. La, in this context, is the feminine impersonal object pronoun, and roja is the feminine form of rojo, meaning red. So the grammatical gender of hacha has clearly not changed. The adjective fresco, meaning fresh or cool, changes to its feminine form fresca in the phrase agua fresca, the name of a group of very good tasting beverages. Seriously, these drinks are super underrated, especially horchata. I love that stuff. Anywho, la isn't the only Spanish word that changes based on the vowel that comes after it. Spanish has the conjunctions y, meaning and o, meaning or, but y has an alternative form e when before another e sound, unstressed or not. So there's y español and y tierra, but e inglés and e iguana. Similarly, o changes to u before another o, with phrases like u octubre and u otro. It should be noted that la changing to el is purely for this type of vowel dissimulation, just like e changing to e and o changing to u. When there's another word that comes right before a feminine noun starting with stressed a, it usually still takes la, as in the phrases la pobre alma and la gran águila. Spanish isn't the only Romance language that cares to prevent consecutive vowels either. French has the singular definite articles le and la, but both change to just l before a vowel. In Italian, the singular definite article is also le before a vowel. French de and Italian di, which are both languages translations of, change to just d before vowels in either language. Portuguese, on the other hand, doesn't care. It'll shove as many vowels in a row as it pleases. Portuguese's word for and, which is also e, although spelled with an a, can freely go before other vowels, including e, as much as it wants. While most Romance languages are nice and consistent and have la as their feminine definite article, Portuguese doesn't take any l's and their article is only a. But a is also a preposition, meaning to, towards, and these other 11 senses found on Wiktionary that I am not about to read back to you. But a, the definite article, and a, the preposition, can come next to each other. And what does Portuguese do to distinguish this potentially confusing combination of two vowels? Lol, just say the same and put a brav in writing, which, by the way, only exists in Portuguese as a contraction of a and a. And then that can just be placed before another noun that starts with a. That's too many ahs. Spanish using a masculine definite article for feminine nouns may sound a bit silly, but at least it stops this utter insanity from happening. Also, side note, el also forms a part of the contractions al and del, meaning to the and of the or from the, which are put onto the same feminine nouns that take just plain el, with del agua for from the water, but de la casa meaning from the house. Now I know what's on everyone's minds. Why am I using the flag of Spain to represent the Spanish language, but the flag of Brazil to represent Portuguese? Well, I use the Brazilian flag since Brazil has a much higher population than Portugal does. But if that's the case, why not use the flag of Mexico to represent Spanish? And believe me, I'd want to. I'm literally Mexican. But the difference between Mexico's population and that of Spain isn't as drastic, and the majority of Spanish speakers don't live in Mexico, whereas the majority of Portuguese speakers do live in Brazil. This is my logic with English as well. Most English speakers don't live in the US, so I use the UK's flag to represent it since the language originated there. I also like to see it as a bit of a compromise, since I speak in an American accent when speaking English and a Mexican accent when speaking Spanish. So generally, my internal system with the flags is this. If the majority of speakers of a given language live in one country, then use that country's flag. If not, then choose the one that subjectively best represents the language. So while Egypt has the highest population of Arabic speakers, it doesn't have the majority, so I use the Arab League flag. France doesn't have the majority of French speakers, but neither does any individual Francophone nation, so I still use its flag for French. Technically, the flag of England might be a better representation for English, but I also have a large distaste for the flag of England. White backgrounds on flags suck. But if it does come to specific regional dialects, I'll use the flag best associated with that dialect. So I'd use the flag of Iraq for Iraqi Arabic, the flag of Argentina for Argentinian Spanish, and I might begrudgingly use the English flag to represent specifically received pronunciation. But I do ditch the country flags if the main ethnic group that speaks the language has their own flag. For example, most speakers of Maori live in New Zealand, but there's a flag specifically for the Maori nation. So the logical thing to do is to use that flag because it much better represents the general speaker base of Maori. And for languages that don't lend themselves well to flags, like many of the languages of Africa and South Asia, I just don't use any flag and represent them solely with text. And yeah, using flags to represent languages has its problems, but hear me out. Flags look nice. Okay, I should probably end the video before I keep ranting about flags. The main things you should take away from this video are that in Spanish, sometimes feminine nouns take the masculine definite article el instead of feminine la, but this doesn't count as the nouns changing gender. And that horchata is the greatest and you should go to your local Mexican restaurant to try some today. Thank you to all 0 of my patrons. This has been LingoLizard. Adios!